Welcome to Film Detour, a podcast where two longtime film buddies take you down and around the back alleys and side streets of cinema.
With the occasional left-hand turn.
I'm John Napick.
And I'm Bob Mueller. So let's go. John, you ready?
I'm ready.
Let's hit it.
This week we're talking about two movies that were shot back-to-back, directed by Monte Hellman.
Monte Hellman's a really interesting character. I mean, to call him a Renaissance man is not to scratch the surface. This guy has done so much. He did so many different things in film. He started out as a film editor, actually at ABC TV as an apprentice. He was also in Los Angeles as a theater director. And Roger,
he did a production of Godot.
Waiting for Godot, exactly. And Roger Corman helped to finance that. It's strange that he did so many different things for Roger Corman, and so many other film directors who came out of the Corman camp, really did very well for themselves. Coppola and Scorsese and
Jonathan Demme.
And Jonathan Demme, right. I'm just surprised that Monte Hellman never really became the big superstar that he had the potential to be, because the two movies we're talking about today are Ride the Whirlwind and The Shooting, both made in 1966. And
the story goes, Jack Nicholson and Monte Hellman were asked by Roger Corman to do a Western.
And then he thought, well, if you're going to do one Western, why don't you do two?
Since you're out there on location, and obviously you have the crew, so let's shoot two back to back.
And I got to say that the guy who shot this, his name is Gregory Sandor, and John, I mean, you look at these two movies, they're made for $75,000 a piece or something.
Yeah.
And they look as good, if not better than anything made in, say, the 70s. Because a lot of the stuff that was going on in the 70s, I don't know what they were doing to shoot it fast, overlight everything, just light everything so you could just set it up quick and then go.
It's all about moving fast.
A lot of Westerns done in the 70s that don't really look very good. This looks fantastic.
Well, I think the reason it looks fantastic also is they did light some, but obviously they're using a lot of natural light.
Almost none, John.
Some of it, you can tell they're shooting in the early morning light. They're shooting in the magic hour towards the end of the day. Beautiful. And we'll get into that stuff.
Yeah.
We should, as we're talking about the scenes.
But I think the only place that I can recall they actually shot with lights was in the cabin in Ride in the Whirlwind.
Yeah, but even that was very natural because the source of the window, there's one scene I'm looking at.
It looks like practical lighting.
Yeah. Anyway, so let's go back a little. 1966. Jack Nicholson starred in both of these. He wrote Ride in the Whirlwind. He produced with Monte Hellman, and Roger Corman was the executive producer, I guess. He gave them the money. It cost $150,000. He gave them $150,000 total. That's for two movies.
Two, count them two.
And they shot it in 6 weeks.
In Utah, right?
Yeah. So we're going to start with Ride in the Whirlwind.
And I was really impressed to find out how much of an entrepreneur Jack Nicholson was. It wasn't like he just came in, okay, I'm going to be the actor, and that's. I mean, he wrote the first one, Ride in the Whirlwind. As an actor, we know Jack. Today is the big superstar, but he was actually very good back then. And as a producer, according to Monte Hellman, he was a real hard pain in the ass to be working with.
Yeah, I think he was. He just didn't like it because he had to watch the money because he had to be responsible. So this is 1966. Let's talk about Jack Nicholson.
Okay.
Before that, he didn't do much. Little Shop of Horrors.
He played the patient in the dentist office.
The Raven, and he did a bunch of. The Terror was another movie.
Right.
But mostly a lot of TV. All these actors in both these movies are really primarily TV actors.
So Jack Nicholson and Monte Hellman started working together. They did two movies for Corman in the Philippines.
Oh.
One was called Backdoor to Hell, and the other one, Flight to Fury. So they got along well there.
Who else is in this? Millie Perkins as the daughter, Abigail.
She's very good.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Millie Perkins is she's only in it for a very short amount of time.
Yeah.
But she has a real quality, and I really liked her a lot in this. She played Anne Frank.
Yeah, Anne Frank in that 50s
Dive of Anne
movie.
Frank. That was the first thing. George Stevens.
Looks nothing like her.
And what was
I did not recognize.
Wild in the Country.
Ensign Pulver.
Yes, Ensign Pulver.
Wagon Train. She's also another TV.
A lot of TV movies.
Yeah. Cameron Mitchell.
Cameron Mitchell really is a great addition to this movie. Actually, he's kind of like a cornerstone because he's an old Hollywood kind of guy, and he's got that great face, really expressive face, terrific actor.
Yeah, and this guy had a long career as a character actor. He's in so many shows: Gunsmoke, Columbo, Macmillan and Wife,
of course,
Night Gallery, Knight Rider. He spans like TV.
Yeah. So many
TV.
Great face, terrific actor, and he does a hell of a job. In this.
It must have been great for him to get this part. Like, it's a starring role. He's like pretty much
really
the main
star because
character.
nobody else is really known at this point.
Yeah,
you got Harry Dean Stanton, who's I love Harry Dean Stanton.
Harry Dean Stanton,
but you know, these guys were really nobodies at this point.
Harry Dean Stanton in this movie is Blind Dick.
Or Dean Stanton.
Dean Stanton, Blind Dick the Outlaw in this. And again, TV shows up to now, pretty much.
Right. He just died recently. He was 92, and he still made one more movie before he died. I mean, this guy was a workhorse, great face, terrific actor. And the interesting thing that I heard that Jack Nicholson said when he hired him, basically just let the wardrobe do the work.
That's a good.
And Harry Dean Stanton said basically that's the direction I was going with, and that's the way he kind of honed his career along those lines from that point on.
Yeah.
And Harry Dean Stanton doesn't need hardly any dialogue at all. I just saw Alien recently.
Right.
He's terrific in that, and he has very little dialogue, and it's just all over his face. He's just a pleasure to watch.
Also, Paris, Texas. The whole first quarter of the movie, he hardly says a word, and it's just his face.
Walking through the disc. It's great.
It's like his face. And in this movie, it's the same thing. He just kind of sits back. He just is. It's just like he doesn't overdo it. The other thing about this movie, both these films, is these are just straightforward, bare bones westerns.
Right.
But they don't overdo it. They're very subtle. Jack Nicholson, I wrote a lot of the dialogue from the film he took from dime store Western novels.
Really?
So the lines are just very subtle and straightforward. So another interesting casting in this movie is an actor called Rupert Cross as Injun Joe. And this is 1966, a black cowboy.
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Yeah, it's pretty darn unusual.
But what's really cool about it is it's not done for effect. Like, if you think of an early Sidney Poitier Western.
Sure.
They make a big deal out of him being a black cowboy. It's like almost like a social statement. Here, he's just a guy like the other guys, and he's treated as such. He's just one of the gang.
So I love Monte Hellman as a director. He has such a great eye. I mean, he was a photographer also, I believe, as one of his many things he did. But he has a great eye for setting up shots. I love the opening shot. It's an over-the-shoulder shot with Harry Dean Stanton, and you see in the distance, the stage just barely in the distance. You can see the smoke coming up from the dust and whatnot. And then Harry Dean Stanton turns, and you can see he has a patch on his eye. And that's the setup that introduces this character right then and there.
And right then and there, you know, he's the bad guy.
Yeah.
And he's called Blind Dick.
What's also interesting is, you know, these actors had to do a lot of physical stuff. And the next shot is this wide-angle shot, and they're running down the side of this hill.
Rocks and gravel
tumbling
down. Yeah.
And, you know, these guys could have tripped and fallen and broken their neck on the way down. So it's pretty darn good for a...
But what's cool about it is, again, using the budget, you know, they found this location, and you really get the sense that these guys are just in this barren landscape.
But Monte Hellman also, once again, a really great eye for locations.
Yeah.
He understood that. I read something along the line. He said, I wanted to make it as a character, that the location is a character. And that's, you know, if you don't have a location and you don't have the right actors for the cast, you don't have a movie.
And I also like it when he gets down, they get down the hill and you see the rest of the gang and they're like, okay, let's go. And he's like, hold on a second. Blind Dick goes around the back of the shack to take a piss.
He has to go take a piss. I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was great. He said, wait a second. You know, I don't want to rob anybody on a full bladder. Yeah. So he just takes care of business slowly, gets up. He's totally confident. He's knows what he's doing, and they go about it.
So basically, these guys pull over the stage.
And the guy who's riding shotgun, he shoots one of the bandits.
Which I thought was interesting because it's like, again, back in those days, I always like these kind of things. I see them, and historically, you see guys riding towards you, and they look mean. What do? You just start shooting. There's no talking here. Excuse me, am I giving you a ride? No. Bang, he starts shooting. So right away, he just starts shooting at him.
Guys on horseback with masks and guns, not a good thing.
Not a good thing. But of course, he gets shot in return, and they kill him. I thought another interesting thing, when they do stop the stage, Injun Joe is the one giving the guys the orders. So he got this black cowboy like out of the stage. And it's not over the top. It's just like, this is like, they do this all the time, and the robbery's so matter of fact.
I forgot that. You're right.
He's just like giving orders, getting out. Okay, you guys out. And they just do this matter of factly. Where's the money? I thought they were going to kill everybody. Nope. They get the money. They get, the guy just gives them the cash box. They get it.
They pull the blockade out of the way.
He makes, now Monte Hellman makes a whole big deal about it. This is suddenly a close-up of this log, which is blockading the road, and you see the guy putting the rope around it, and they slowly pull the log off.
Yeah, at first I couldn't figure out what the hell they were doing.
Yeah, and it's like, why is he showing this? And suddenly you just see they're letting, okay, we have the cash box, you guys can go. Thank you very much.
Yeah, he might as well just tipped his hat. Yeah, if you didn't shoot at us, we would have killed you.
It's like if this was a Warner Brothers cartoon, they would have punched the clock, like, hi, Joe, hi, Bob, robbery today? Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Okay, on your way. This is it occurred all the time in the Old West.
Exactly. A word to the wise, not worth shooting first.
Yes.
I really like, because it cuts from there pretty much over to three other characters who come into the picture.
It's a hard cut, right.
And I like there's Cameron Mitchell. His horse gets spooked. There's this foreboding quality.
Yeah.
Cameron Mitchell's horse is getting spooked, and you're thinking, are the bandits out there? What's going on? Are there the bad guys out there? But they ride upon a hanged man.
They're going through the brush, like something's up here. What's going on? And suddenly come upon a guy just hanging there. It's really spooky.
Yeah.
It's done well because you can see his face is all kind of purple or whatever, and he's just been there.
And Jack doesn't like the feeling of the whole thing. You can just tell.
I love the phrase, set a foot. For being hung. Like, what? It's interesting. Just a lovely...
The turn of phrases.
And
you're saying that Jack took some of these out of dime novels. But I really did like the dialogue a lot because it actually felt natural to me.
What's really interesting about a lot of this dialogue with these three cowboys is they're cowboys and they've just come from a cattle drive. They're making their way to Texas. They've been together a long time. And in this dialogue, they don't really have to say much to communicate with each other. And you can see Vern, who's the older guy, and Wes, the Jack Nicholson character, who's the young cowboy. There's a little friction there. They've been around they're too familiar with each other. Yes. And they get on each other's nerves a little.
They don't quite look at things exactly the same way.
And there's just something that kind of plays out in the whole movie.
I like the way the action just cuts from that robbery right to the three characters.
Yeah.
Because you're going, okay, where's this going and who are these guys?
Right. It's
so
just
I like that.
It just moves the plot along.
Moves it right along.
Boom.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
The other interesting thing I'll say about this, and again, it's another pet peeve of mine with Westerns, is you look at these characters in this film, including the women, their faces are dirty.
They look like real people.
The clothes are beat up.
They really do.
The horses are lame. They're barely making it because they're out in the West. They don't have water. It's like a real Western. It's not like you see these movies or shows and everybody's so clean. Right. I'm like, it's the West. It's mud on the ground. There's no cement. Right. How is everybody clean?
The first time I really ever noticed that was in Walter Hill's The Long Riders.
Yeah.
Because that whole town sequence, he really went all out. And the town is mud.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no nice streets, maybe a little dust. Right. It was mud. It was filthy and disgusting. That's the first time I really noticed that sort of thing. It didn't feel so Hollywood. When they ride into this camp where Harry Dean Stanton and company are holed up,
right,
and there's so much tension. I mean, I could feel it, and the way you see Harry Dean Stanton looking, he's got this sort of look at him like, okay, what are we going to do with these guys?
And they have this whole discussion, like they see these three cowboys coming, like, what do we do? And he's like,
there's only three. Let them come.
Yeah, let's just see what they're going to do.
Right.
Maybe they're just, and they discuss it. Maybe they're just passing through
because they could have picked them off.
Yeah,
and that's one of the things that I believe Cameron Mitchell says later on. Yeah. This is kind of a funny situation. These guys aren't really telling us the truth. This all seems really phony.
And what's interesting is Harry Dean Stanton tells most of the gang, there's 5 of them, 3 of them to go off and like kind of watch over.
Right.
And there's just 2 of them there, him and Injun Joe.
Right. And the guy who's wounded.
So when they pull up, the 3 cowboys, Otis is the 3rd cowboy. He looks and he sees 5 horses.
Right.
And right away he knows there's more guys.
Everything about this stuff stinks.
Yeah.
So they know they've walked into shit. They really want to get out, but they're just going to spend the night and then get the hell out of there. Yeah. That's all they want to do. Just spend the night and get the hell out of there. But it's not that simple.
But there's like an unspoken truce between them because, again, if you're living out in the West, you know these guys are outlaws.
Right.
These guys know you're just cowpokes who are just going through. You don't really want trouble. So they have this kind of truce like, well, you could kind of camp over there and we'll give you some coffee or whatever, you know? Like they actually
some
offer
beans,
them
a swig of the jug.
A swig of the jug, and they give them some beans.
But there's a problem in the midst.
Yes.
You have the lughead, Hank, who is just itching to shoot everybody. Hank
is that because a lughead turns lug nuts all day? What is a lughead? I don't know.
I think they have a head like a big lug that has.
I'll go with that.
That has no brain.
Okay.
Hank is just itching to kill everybody, and Harry Dean Stanton says, "Well, let's just hold off on that for a little while."
But they do see the wounded guy inside. So there's the one guy who did not die, the outlaw that got shot by the stagecoach guy.
And they make up a really crappy excuse that he fell on his knife.
He fell on his knife.
Nobody's buying that for a second.
And Bob mentioned this earlier. When they're inside the cabin, the lighting is just fantastic.
Yeah.
It really is done so that it just seems like the light's coming through this big window.
Yeah.
Because obviously there's no glass. It's an old log cabin. And it's just this source lighting.
It's beautiful. You feel like you're in the cabin. You really get the sense of the lighting and everything. It's great.
And
really
like the difference between the outside and the inside, it's so dark in there. It's just an old cabin.
And it's so bright and stark, and it hurts your eyes when they come outside. Yeah. It's so creepily obvious for me, watching it and to the three characters that Harry Dean and his company is just totally full of shit.
Yeah. One of the bandits says, they know we ain't no cowhands. And the other guy goes, they don't want no trouble. Going to Waco is all they are. And that's it.
Yep. But the way he delivers it, the way Harry Dean Stanton delivers it, it just feels so right coming out of his mouth. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
But that's him as an actor, too.
So then again, you just cut to nighttime, and we're at this little campsite with the three cowboys who are off to the side in some kind of stable area,
right?
And they're just sitting there talking,
finishing up their beans that they've been given.
Great scene with them, just three cowboys around the fire, just talking. It's all kind of relaxed. It's a very naturalistic scene.
Mm-hmm. Cameron Mitchell as Vern. He has a really interesting face.
Yeah.
He's a great old pro actor. And the interesting thing about Jack Nicholson is, we know Jack now. We've seen him a million times, Academy Award winner, Cuckoo's Nest, etc. But Jack, even all the way back then, had that same cocky smile as he does today. And I think that's pretty interesting that he is who he is.
Very is the phrase laconic? Is that the phrase?
Yeah, sure.
He's almost a wise ass, but he's not.
He's laconic, but he's got a nasty edge to it.
Yeah.
There's something just nasty behind that somewhere.
And what's really cool is the next morning, they shot it, morning light. It's just beautiful photography. The cowboys are getting ready to leave. Vern's teasing Wes. Wes is like, I ain't even going to get started with you this morning. And then suddenly,
the posse rolls in and starts shooting.
You hear a shot.
And you know that the jig is up and these guys are surrounded and there's no way for them to get out of there. They didn't do anything. They're just three guys that just wanted to sleep, have some beans, and get the hell out of there. Now they're caught up in this, and no matter what they do, it doesn't make any difference. Either they get out of there or they're going to get hung.
And what's interesting is you cut to the sheriff, who we've seen earlier. There's about 10, 15 guys there.
And they all look real, John.
Yeah.
They all have real faces. They look like they'd be in a posse.
And they're not even discussing what to do with these outlaws. It's basically, we're just going to start shooting. These guys are outlaws. They shot a guy in the stagecoach. We're going to hang them. And you cut back to these three cowboys who, for no reason, are in this situation, and they're looking at each other like...
And they're not going to be able to talk their way out of it. There's just no way.
They know that, and that's really interesting. Between them, they know...
They know they did nothing.
Like, my thought was, why don't they just raise a white flag?
Hey, we're innocent here.
We're just cowboys.
There's no way these guys know who did what.
Yeah, they're
just going to be done.
There's no jury going on. There's no trial. They're just going to shoot them, so these guys are stuck. It's
Frontier justice.
Messed up. Exactly. But that's kind of the point of the film, I think. It's like these guys are just stuck there for no reason.
What's interesting also is, to give an indication of how fast this movie moves, that's 25 minutes into the movie. The posse's in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's only 25 minutes into the movie, and this thing is moving like, rapid fire.
And you mentioned earlier about the stagecoach scene. There's a great scene. It's a long stretch of action without dialogue of this posse just shooting, trying to get closer to the cabin and surrounding these guys in this canyon. And what's interesting is the three cowboys, they're pinned down outside in this corral. The outlaws are in the cabin.
They're standing there just thinking, well, what the heck do we do?
Yeah.
So they put their hands up as if to surrender, and all of a sudden, shooting comes back from the cabin in exchange for the fire that the posse's shooting at them. And then these guys know. They hit the ground because forget it.
And there's a great line that cut back to inside the shack, and Blind Dick just basically goes, "It's going to be a long day."
That's my favorite line. That's my favorite line.
It's so like...
And he has the audacity to say, "What you want with us? Are you kidding me? Is that going to stall up for any time?"
But it's so great because it's like no one's blaming anybody. They know the job of the posse, the vigilantes, is to come and hang them because they committed a crime. Right. Their job is to get out of it.
Somehow, shoot their way out of something. But they're surrounded. There's no way. And then finally, the sheriff says, "Okay, smoke them out." And in essence, burn them out.
Yeah.
And so they set fire to the cabin, and it's fantastic inside because you really feel like these guys are inches away from flames. The ceiling comes in, and there's a real menace, a real threat to
there's
these
like
guys. Smoke is coming up like crazy.
A beam on fire in the foreground. Yep. You see Harry Dean Stanton right behind that. It's like, it feels like it's pretty tight.
It must have been pretty tight and pretty hot in there, I would think, and smoky,
and we know it's on location. Yep. I'm thinking, like, how did they do this? Like, it must be a long lens situation where you make everything feel close, but it works so well.
Absolutely. So finally, the guys in the cabin, Harry Dean Stanton and company, who has ever left, who's not dead, they got nowhere else to go because they surrender eventually, but once they surrender, they know, we're going to be hanged. Yeah. So it's a question of, do I want to die getting burned to death?
Right.
Or am I going to just go out and get hanged? There's no choice.
Yeah. Yeah. So the three cowboys decide to make a break for it because Otis, who's the third cowboy, he's like, we have no choice. We just got to get out of here.
Right.
So they make a break for it, and Otis, as he's making a break, he gets shot in the back. He tries to get up again.
And he gets shot again.
Shot again. There's no mercy.
That's it.
There's no effing mercy.
No, they're not
here.
giving anything, no.
So Jack...
There's no Miranda rights.
So Wes and Vern make a break for it up the canyon.
It's a box canyon.
Which is exactly what it means.
Unbelievable.
There's no exit.
They've got nowhere to go.
Well, one of the young cowboys goes up to the sheriff. They're making a run for it up the canyon, and he's just like, they're not going there. Just let them go.
Right.
We'll catch up to them later.
Absolutely.
We're going to get these guys in the cabin. Injun Joe and Blind Dick come out of the cabin. They're just like smoke inhalation or whatever. They're coughing.
They can't stay in there any longer. I love how Injun Joe.
Yeah.
He fights the whole way until finally they just punch him in the stomach to disable him because this guy is just not going to give up. Yeah. And when they finally get him strung up, he has the audacity to spit at them.
Yeah.
And he's not giving up.
It's great when they literally drag these two guys through the brush to a tree. The guys are throwing the rope over the tree. Nothing really said. It's like, this is the job. They put the rope up.
Classic lynching.
Yeah. And they put these two guys in the noose, and the sheriff's got anything to say? And Dick and Joe, they just remain silent.
Yeah.
It's just, they don't even look at each other, basically. They just stand there like, this is where this is ending. What are we going to say? There's nothing we can say. And it's just a very matter-of-fact scene. And the next thing you know...
They smack the horse.
And it's a great angle.
Beautiful.
Low angle, you just see...
Actually, Injun Joe gets one last extra twitch. I guess Monte Hellman said, okay, twitch,
You see these legs just suddenly dangling in the frame.
Great.
Yeah.
Really nice.
It's just a really beautiful scene.
What's amazing to me is when Jack and Cameron Mitchell start making their way up this box canyon steep cliff, these cliffs are so, I don't know, they look like they're 6 inches, maybe a foot. How the hell they were able to get up and around and not get hurt or killed?
They're literally climbing
straight down. I mean, a ledge that's looks about 6 inches to me.
Yeah, so they have to leave their horses behind. The only option they have is to climb over the canyon.
Yeah.
So
unless they're Batman with a batarang, they're not going to be able to do anything but slowly angle their way up bit by bit.
But it's a great initial shot when you see them climbing up. And it's Jack and this actor, Cameron Mitchell. They're going up 25 feet, 30 feet. They could easily fall.
Absolutely.
There's
one shot in particular. Yeah, there's no safety net.
Stunt guys.
That's exactly right. These guys are doing everything.
Yeah.
So they're making their way up around this one shot where it's really, really close and tight to where the cliff is and the rock wall, and you see them just their hands grabbing and holding on. And Cameron Mitchell must have been thinking at this point, Jesus Christ, I've done like 250,000 different westerns and television shows, and how am I going to make it up around this thing? And the other thing that I'm amazed at, how the hell they get a camera up there?
Yeah.
It's not like they took a little tiny handheld spring-wind Rolex or something. It's a 35 millimeter big-ass camera, Panavision or something.
I was thinking that one shot you're talking about is there must have been like a long ledge you were just not seeing. And
I guess.
And just the angle of the shot makes it look like there's like a drop-off behind them.
I heard an interview with Monte Hellman, and he was saying that the guys were holding out for dear life to hang on to this camera.
Yeah, again, 1966, I was wondering how big that camera is. Yeah. I don't know what they were using.
Yeah, I'm sure it wasn't teeny tiny.
No, they're not small cameras back then. So these guys are climbing over. They have no option, and they're on foot.
There's a spot where they get up to the top.
Yeah.
Finally, and they've been shot at already.
Yeah.
So Cameron Mitchell and Jack are talking, and Jack just plops his ass down, and he's got his head between his knees, like, we're screwed.
Yeah.
What the hell are we going to do? We're screwed. And the body language is beautiful. You didn't even need a shred of dialogue. It was terrific.
There is a point where he goes, lost my spurs. He's just pissed that he lost the spurs. And then there is another cut to just a whole nother environment, and we're suddenly at this homestead.
Right.
And it's... you see this old guy out there chopping at some log.
The stump
in the middle of his property. And this young girl comes out, Millie Perkins, who's young, his daughter Abigail. And you cut to this scene where he washes up. She brings out the water. That's her job. He washes up. He goes inside for lunch. And it's just this old man, this old woman, and
this young girl.
And this young girl who has probably never been anywhere except on this damn homestead. And you really get the sense that these people are... And
you're talking about isolated. You were saying isolated before.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Like the Old West, they're just out there.
And this poor teenage kid.
Yeah.
This girl.
Who's got nothing.
What the hell does she do all day?
Nothing. Well, they work,
The chores.
It's almost like an American Gothic painting. It's just such a beautiful location and scenery. And then poor Abby doing her father's bidding. It's like living with her parents her whole life. And then these two vigilantes show up. And they're
part of the posse.
They're telling them there's these outlaws out there. Be careful. What I liked about that scene, and I don't know if you noticed, the old man, he's talking to these two cowboys on horseback, and he's like, Abigail, get the corn whiskey. And she comes out with the jug. And to me, I don't know if I ran into this, it's almost like he's showing her off because she's got to marry. And not that this was the intention, but he's kind of showing her off to these cowboys because one of the guys looks at her and he tells the other one, we're coming back later for dinner. That's how it was in the Old West. You got to meet people.
The one correction, he didn't say we're coming back. He said, I'll be coming back for a meal.
I'll be coming back for a meal.
Yeah. So we cut back to Jack and Cameron, and they're having a powwow. And it's interesting to see Jack Nicholson play a character who has a lot of flaws and a lot of weaknesses. Jack falters a bunch during the course of the film, and he complains a lot. And Cameron Mitchell always sets him straight.
Yeah,
he's kind of like a father figure to him. And I like the way as actors they worked off each other. Better blisters than neck burns, Cameron Mitchell says after he's complaining about his feet. I can't walk.
Yeah.
Better blisters than neck burns. And that sets it all up there.
But that's their relationship. There is a little caustic,
I felt
energy
like it was a
there.
Father and son thing.
I think Jack kind of was a little tired of him, or he was a little tired of Jack's whining.
But
you
it goes back
hear
and
that.
forth.
Yeah, of course.
And it kind of reminds me of the bickering, the two bickering.
Oh, you mean you had a really comfortable relationship with your dad?
Not exactly, Joe.
It's like all father-son relationships. You're together a long time, and there's a little bit of back and forth.
Yes.
That's all I'm saying. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, so we get back to the house. I wanted to just mention the actor, George Mitchell, old pro actor. He was in everything from Bonanza to The Birdman of Alcatraz. He was in The Third Man.
Yep.
He was in the Andromeda Strain.
Oh, yeah.
The old guy in Andromeda Strain.
Andromeda Strain.
Right. He was in 3:10 to Yuma and Nevada Smith.
There you go.
I mean, those are just a couple of different hand picks that I said. This guy did a million things. So his face is perfect for a Western. You totally believe him, an old pro.
And this character, again, it's an older guy.
Right.
These guys are hard scrabble.
And he might not even be that old if you think about it.
Yeah.
You work that hard all the time,
yeah.
and you have all these elements hitting you in the face every single day. You start to age pretty quick.
But you can see it. They have to work the land. They have to do all the work. And you get gist that this guy has been attacking this stump for 2 days.
The frickin' stump.
You just got to do all this work. And you can see they just lead such a hard scrabble life. And they're tough as nails.
I felt the stump was like symbolic of frontier life. That goddamn stump. That seemed to spend most of his time. Chidump, chop, chidump, chop.
So basically, Vern and Wes come upon this family, and they are holding the two women hostage, in essence. And when Pa comes in, they're like, we just need to rest here. We're not outlaws. The family does know about these criminals because the two posse guys were there earlier. But these guys are there. We just want to rest. We just want to eat so we can get out of here. We're going to stay here till nighttime. And it's kind of very poignant because Vern is, he's trying to get across to these people that he's not an outlaw.
Right.
And they're not going to hurt him.
But that comes up a few different times during the course of the scenes that they're in the homestead.
Yeah.
That he says, I ain't them. We're not outlaws.
And Jack says that too. He's like, actually, Jack is more upset that they're in this situation at all. It's like, we didn't do anything. And we're running, they think they're going to kill us.
So the stump, the chop, chop, chop at the stump, he tells the guy to just go outside for a while. Just keep things as they're normal.
Right.
Cameron Mitchell tells him to. Just keep things as they're normal.
Because they're going to wait this day out.
Right. And they know, like an alarm bell, if this guy stops chopping, there's something wrong.
Right.
So that's a good signal for them to know.
They know the
coming.
posse's out there hunting for them.
If
So
they can just get through this day, sneak away at night, they might just make it out of there alive.
He actually says, Vern says at one point, don't make no trouble. It's what's best for all of us. We just want everything to be normal. Yeah. So he goes back out there to work on that stump. Of course, one of the posse comes riding along.
Well, that's the thing. They would have gotten through the day safely, but Mr. Tall, Dark in Romeo, he comes back for his quote-unquote meal.
Yeah.
Because he wants to see the girl. And if that just little thing didn't happen, they would have made it out, which makes it an interesting little factor in the plot.
Well, I mean, it's a real occurrence. I took that as totally natural.
No, absolutely. But I'm just saying, as an audience member, I'm working it for them. I'm pitching for them. But this guy has to come back for his meal, SOB.
And of course, Pa's there, and he right away the guy knows something's wrong. The way the old man's behaving, and he's like, "Is there something going on here?" And
you're acting awful strange for nothing wrong.
And what's interesting, the cowboys, the Vern and Wes are in the house looking through the window. They're helpless. They know this guy's talking to the cowboy. And they even say it because he's probably telling them right now,
There's a scene inside the cabin. Jack can't sleep. He's so damn tired. And the girl says, you can lie over there. But that's she says it's my bed. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, miss. No, it's okay. I'm sort of looking at it, because Jack's relatively young, closer in age and whatnot. And I kind of get a feeling that she sort of would like to, I don't know, move out of there somehow, or likes Jack enough to maybe get out of there. It's a little monotonous on her life. So I just got that little feeling of it. But that makes her a good actress because I got that feeling without any real dialogue. She's really good.
And there's a really nice scene, I think it's just before that maybe, where Jack goes out to the stable to check the horses. And the dad is like, you can't take those horses. That's my livelihood. Like, you take those horses, I can't do any work. And it's just a terrible equation. Jack's like, well, we got to get out of here. We didn't do nothing.
And it's better than hanging.
Yeah. And so Jack...
Well, that's actually what he says. What are we supposed to do? Hang?
Yeah.
For doing nothing?
So Jack wants to go out to the stables, and he's going to take the girl.
And he doesn't really make a big deal out of the horses.
Yeah.
He goes and takes a look at the horses. Basically, he said, I got cabin fever.
Yeah.
He just wanted to get out. Just want to talk to the girl for a little while. Just want to have some sort of normalcy.
I have to say, Millie Perkins plays this role. It's a very odd role because you really get the sense that this girl in the movie has just been so isolated.
Absolutely.
And so it's a very peculiar part. She's like a weirdo in a sense.
And she doesn't have much to do, really.
No.
Hardly any dialogue.
And because all she does is have her parents. Who is she talking to?
Nobody.
So it's just this lonely 18-year-old out in the prairie, and you can just see she's so isolated. It comes across in the performance. She just seems so odd.
Well, I remember reading an interview where she said that, she just kind of imagined this life of this girl, and the only friends she has there are the chickens.
Yeah, exactly.
And she said she actually started to move a little when she looked around like a chicken. She said she got that in her mind to do that. So if you look closely at the way she looks at things, it's kind of like that quick jutting way the chickens look over here, over there, and around.
All she needed was a carnival to come through. She would have had a job.
There
the
you
chicken
go.
lady.
That's right, the chicken lady. So there's a scene where Jack just wants to sleep, and she offers her bed for him, and he goes, oh, thank you very much. So he lays down and tries to sleep, but Cameron Mitchell's all keyed up. Yeah. And the idea of hanging to him is just too much to even bear. Yeah. So he's just talking, and Jack is trying to sleep, and he keeps talking and talking.
And I have to say, you see Jack lay down on that bed, and he just kind of curls up. I like a good nap in the afternoon, and I could just feel how tired he was, and you could just feel.
Well, he put his forearm over his eyes just to block the light,
and you could just feel him just wanting to go to sleep. And Cameron Mitchell
doesn't stop talking,
can't sit still.
Finally, Jack just can't take it anymore. He goes, let's do something. Do you folks have any checkers?
Yeah.
And so they just sit down and playing checkers. And to me, I was like, oh my God, you're sitting around playing checkers? There's guys who are going to come in. And you're not going to make it out alive. How can you sit there and play checkers? So Cameron Mitchell is just kind of confounded by this whole situation. Yeah. Everything just starts coming in on him. And he sits there and just starts saying, sitting here playing checkers. Well, there are a bunch of men out there looking to string us up. And then you hear chop, chop, chop. And all I can think of is, enough with the stump. I can't take it anymore. Another aspect of that scene is where Cameron Mitchell, while they're playing checkers, there are these flashbacks. And some of them are oral.
Yeah, the flashback
voiceovers, or some of them are visual, or a combination of both. And they're really mixed up. And I don't know if this is necessarily in the script. I think it was Monte Hellman as an editor. He's not credited, but he edited the film too. Yeah. He did a hell of a job. It's beautiful. And it really is a nice little scene to kind of see this whole story unfold, sort of in reverse, and then come up to the present. And then he just gets mad at Jack. He goes, well, why don't you move already? And Jack looks at him like, wait a second, I just moved. Are you paying attention at all? But he's not. Yeah. His mind is just somewhere else.
And he's basically, the way I took it is, it's a really beautiful scene, actually. All done with editing, as you said. It's kind of like he's thinking about all the things that have happened that have brought him to this moment.
Right. And Cameron Mitchell plays it so well because it's all over. He is so worn. You can see his face is so worn.
Very expressive face.
And so the guy finally stops at the stump. The stump, thank God, I was so pleased it stopped. Stops the stump, and that's the alarm bell.
He's like, why'd he stop?
Right.
Why'd he stop chopping?
Exactly.
What's going on? And they look out there, and the cowboys has ridden up. So basically, the jig is up. The cowboy knows something's up. He goes back to the posse. He actually tells the pa after he finishes talking to him, he goes, I'm just going to ride off. Point over that way, as if you're telling me to go. You think they went that way. And they're doing this kind of charade, but inside Wes and Vern, they're looking out the window. They know something.
They got to get out of there now.
Yeah. And so this guy goes riding off to get the rest of the posse.
So the two guys, Cameron Mitchell and Jack Nicholson, they run out, go to get the horses. And of course, the old guy has to shoot at them.
Well, they're taking his horses. He doesn't have his horses. He can't work. He can't pull that fucking stump out of the ground. Think about it. That's it.
He has to shoot at him.
Yes,
Death.
Festus. Yeah.
a little Dennis Weaver reference from Gunsmoke.
It's tragic, right? You see this old guy come out with his rifle. He sees this guy's going after his horses, and of course he's going to take a shot. And he does, and he hits...
And it's his last shot.
And he hits Vern. And matter-of-factly, Jack just shoots him and kills the dad, kills Pop.
Well, how's he going to not?
Yeah.
And of course, Cameron Mitchell is now wounded, and they got to get away somehow.
I mean, what's interesting about the whole movie is just like how it's almost like I don't want to say existential, that's what critics say, but it's like...
Oh, don't say existential. Please, I'll pay extra.
It's the inevitability of it all.
Yes.
And that's, this guy shoots his partner. Jack's like, he didn't say a word. He just shoots the guy. It's just, I'm sorry, you shot my partner. You're dead. It's like, I got to get out of here.
Right.
You should not have shot at us.
And you're not going to shoot at me.
Yeah. I mean, the whole movie kind of plays out that way. And so these guys go riding off, and Vern's injured.
But what I thought was interesting about Millie's take on it, she doesn't seem too broken up. Just kind of looking at the body.
Yeah. It's almost like,
maybe I don't have to get his washing anymore.
Really?
I really liked that about it. She just kind of looked at it like, what are you going to do?
It's kind of like you see the wheels turning in her head like, well, me and Ma could move into town, maybe.
Maybe this isn't such a bad thing.
What's interesting is the posse shows up, and the first words out of Ma's mouth is, I hope you hang him.
Right.
And again, it's just like, this is tough.
Yeah.
The Old West, not a walk in the park.
No, not a wonderful place. I love how Cameron Mitchell finally just says, let me off the horse. So he gets off the horse.
They're riding.
And he's wounded. He's done.
See these guys riding through the brush. They're riding through the brush.
So Cameron Mitchell just gets off the horse, just falls off the horse, said, just go. So Jack looks at him and he thinks, well, F it. I got to do something. So he gets on the horse right away. And Cameron Mitchell crawls up and basically holds them off. So Jack has some
Jack just like gets on his horse
and rides like hell.
Not even by. Wordlessly, okay, you're right, this is it, and just takes off.
Yeah.
Vern, they cut back to Vern. He's lying in the sand. It's all over his face, like where the blood is.
Yeah.
And the men are surrounding him. There's got to be no mercy here. And they realize he's dead. He just dies.
But he's only the one guy.
Yeah. And one of the cowboys is like, well, what about the other one? And I think the sheriff is just like, he's gone. I mean, and then cut to Jack.
Jack, once again, it's a beautiful shot. It's a sunset, coming down, and Jack, in the tradition of the Western, rides off into the sunset. But it's not the triumphant, beginning of life, great hero rides off into the sunset. It's possible maybe they could still keep coming after him, but he's not riding off like your traditional happy ending. There is no happy ending.
On the other hand, Bob, maybe it is the beginning of his life. You know what I mean? He's going to get at it because it's the West. There's no communication.
That's true.
He makes it to Texas.
He was looking for change anyway.
Maybe he'll come back for that girl.
Yeah.
Go back for dinner.
Go back for a meal. I don't think Mom will receive you too well, but I think maybe Millie will like it. Real tight, nifty story. John, 82 minutes.
82 minutes.
82 minutes. A beautiful thing.
Yeah. You and I used to have a thing about
87 minutes.
87 minutes.
Yep. A good, tight, independent film. Give me an 87-minute film.
87-minute film.
Today, everything has to be 137 minutes, 154 minutes. Just give me a 90-minute thing or 2 hours. But 82 minutes to give you that much stuff. Beautiful.
Why
and
does
$75,000, John.
But why does the superhero movie need to be 2.5 hours? You would think with all the special effects, they'd be like 87 minutes. Less effects.
You got a guy with a suit, runs around for a while, throws some special effects, credits roll. Done. 82 minutes.
Maybe they need Monte Hellman to helm.
Yes, Monte Hellman is still around, so you never know.
Film.
He is still around.
That's it. Ride in the Whirlwind.
Go see it.
Excellent movie.
We continue next time with The Shooting in part 2 of our Monte Hellman Western double feature.
Well, that's all the time we have this week.
We'd like to thank our friend Glenn Arnowitz for his music.
And of course our listeners for tuning in.
So join us next week for another episode of
Film Detour.
If you like our show, please recommend us to your friends. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, and leave a review.
Go to our website at filmdetour.libsyn.com to leave comments or email us with questions. That's filmdetour.libsyn.com. You can also visit us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
And you can also find us on YouTube.